What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Moon616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 9, Day 30 is coming at you live and direct. Alright, guys, so we're going to take a flight over to Taiwan with a film directed by Kevin Ko. Now, I'm not really familiar with this director at all, actually. I think this was his debut film in 2009, and he's done a couple films after, but I don't really know much about the director, to be honest. It's a film that was released by Unearthed Films, and generally when Unearthed puts out films, even modern stuff, I'm generally interested in what they're putting out. So I thought I'd take a stab at this one and try it out. So from 2009, we have a film called Invitation Only. Yeah, so upon reading the synopsis for myself before I even purchased, I was like, oh, sounds actually pretty cool. It did sound similar to other films per se, but we'll get into that. All right, so get into the synopsis of Invitation Only. This one follows our main character, Wade. He's basically a chauffeur that works for his rich boss. He chauffeurs around his rich boss. He's a big CEO of this company and stuff like that. Anyways, one day he finds his boss fucking some model in the back of a vehicle, and so yeah, that didn't go very well. But anyways, so next he's driving his boss around and stuff like that, and his boss says to him, he's like, I've got this invitation to this party on the weekend, I can't make it, do you want to go? And Wade says, well, I can't really go because I don't have any clothes, I don't have any money, it's not really my type of thing and stuff. And he's like, don't worry about it, I'll give you all the shit you need, here's some money, clothes, and yeah, all you got to do is show up with this invitation. Now the thing is with this invitation is that when you get there, you have to write like your biggest dream on there, and you're guaranteed to like your dream is basically guaranteed to come true, which obviously sounds too good to be true, right? So anyways, he goes to this party, and it's like all these upper class people. They're eating like caviar and snails and drinking the finest wines and champagnes and stuff like that. He's gambling all night on his boss's money and shit, hitting on his mistress and all this type of things. Anyways, one thing leads to another. It's time for their dream gifts and stuff. So he goes and he dreamed for this like awesome car, and anyways, they go into this garage. They all get locked in, and now it's basically a fight for their lives as they get periodically hunted down one by one and murdered off. So anyways, yeah, it's the synopsis of the film. So my thoughts on Invitation Only. Now, right off the bat, I was like, this one reminds me of so many films. Just the premise alone kind of reminded me of Vampire Party, the French film that came out, I think, a couple years before this. It also reminded me of Murder Party, right? Those were invitation, and then when you get there, you're being tortured or killed and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, so this idea isn't like the most original, but then it starts getting into it, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, maybe they'll do something else with this movie. And then all of a sudden it turns into exactly where I didn't want it to go. And it was like, it had these total vibes of Saw. It has like this, the surveillance types of things that are going on. And then it feels like Hostile. It feels like Hostile. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is just kind of a blend of like all these films that had just previously come out and were doing really, really big things. Maybe not Vampire Party, but I don't know how that did in France. But, the American films, they did pretty good. And I'm like, okay. So I'm kind of rolling with this one and stuff, and it kind of goes into this territory where it's got a lot of really good ideas. I just don't think it's executed perfectly, in my opinion. I'll start with the kills. Now, the film opens up with a really good one. There's this beautiful Taiwanese girl in this bathroom, and she gets killed off. But I was just like, damn, dude, they're not pulling any strings here with killing off beautiful women like that. I was like, holy shit, dude. It kind of took me back a little bit. But there's one thing I will say about the film. All the women in this movie are so fucking hot. It's crazy. Like, the cast is absolutely amazing. But yeah, for the most part, the kills throughout the film, there is a lot of like throat slits and stuff. But then it gets into torture kills. It gets into that whole torture porn angle. This is 2009. It's coming off the success of Hostel and Saw and a whole swool of films that were really kind of, up the ante with, the torture porn subgenre. I hate the term, but unfortunately that's what most people call it. Yeah, so there's a couple kills that involve, torture within. It kind of turns into like a game show in a sense. The hosts of this party turn out to be not exactly who they are and things like that. And then we get this whole kind of like torture angle and stuff. And I thought, there's one kill for all the males out there. It was pretty fucking brutal. I really didn't like how it led up to it, but that's a whole other thing I'll get into. But and then there's another kind of torture kill involving like this girl's face getting slit up and stuff full of salt and shit. So it was pretty brutal. But for the most part, the kills were okay. All practical effects from what I could see. And so that's always a bonus and stuff like that. Now, there's not really much to offer here besides people getting hunted down, this whole kind of torture game, not game show angle. It just kind of feels like that. This film wears its heart on its sleeve with its commentary. It's really about classism, and it's really about, you know, the rich eating the poor. It really is. And there's even a huge monologue in the film too, where one of the bigwigs that's, you know, responsible for doing some of the shit gives this whole detailed monologue about how he can get away with anything because he was born rich and he's rich now and powerful and stuff, and you're just a low-life scum, you know, poor bastard, and blah blah blah. And it just kind of goes on and on and on, and it's really about that. I mean, all the visuals in the film, as soon as it gets to this party, it's all about high classism, and, you know, it's about basically, you know, fucking the poor. But to make things a little bit more interesting, I guess they do kind of disclose as to why this whole scenario is happening, why these poor people are being essentially captured and tortured and killed and murdered and stuff like that. And the reason behind it is a little bit weak in my opinion, but at the same time it does make sense, even though, you know, you're essentially getting revenge against people that had nothing to do with what happened to you in your life. And so it's kind of like this weird thing where it's just, it really is all about classism. And oh man, it's so vile, and it kind of treats like, I mean, I'm sure maybe the director has a vendetta against rich people. I mean, me personally, myself, I grew up in like a very middle class type family, but I grew up around a lot of rich people. I went to a high school where it was a lot of different classes. There was people that were lower class than me. I was kind of like just straight up middle class. And then I had friends that were very, very wealthy, born with silver spoons up their asses. So we had this like mixture of all these type of classes within and I get that. And I always had this vendetta against like rich people because it's probably a little bit of a jealousy thing. I mean, you're 16 years old and one of your friends shows up to school with a brand new Mustang, a 1996 Mustang. You're like, well, that's fucking bullshit. I'm driving a 1982 Toyota that's rusted the fuck out. You know, it's like you have those type of elements and stuff, but I'm not going to go and kill the rich. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, like all in all, I mean, the film really kind of states what it is. It's the commentary is there. I mean, there's one symbolic moment in the film I thought was totally unneeded, but it's before this dude gets tortured with electricity and stuff, and this guy pulls out this little mouse and he puts the mouse on there and he like fries it, and it's very symbolic to like, this I'm bigger than you and this is what I can do to you kind of thing. And I'm just like, okay, I'm getting the fucking point here. I just don't like how the whole film was constructed. I feel like they could have done a lot better. Like I didn't mind the party things and things that were happening, but it was so obvious to what was going to go down, even without reading a synopsis. And I just feel like the whole dinner party classism, you know, kind of torture show thing wasn't really done that well. It eventually goes out of the place. There's a huge car chase and stuff, but I think the most impressive kills in the film are actually ones that are on the baddies in this one. They're probably the best kills and things like that. So all in all, it's not a bad watch. There's not anything remotely original about this film, which is kind of annoying. We've all seen everything that's happened here. There's actually a scene in this film that is taken directly out of Hostel also. If you've seen this film, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's blatant. It's absolutely beyond blatant how fucking obvious that scene is. It's so crazy. So that's kind of crazy. But, you know, as for like how it's shot and stuff, it does look good. It sounds pretty decent. I thought it was acted pretty well. Again, the cast is very, very beautiful. The music is very interesting. It feels like there's moments in this film where it feels like there's some like radio rock from like the late 90s, early 2000s. Even though this film came out in 2009, it feels so much earlier. Even some of the beats and stuff that they use feel a lot older. I don't know if that's just what they had access to. I have no idea why the soundtrack feels older. It could have been newer stuff I'm just unfamiliar with. I have no idea. But it does feel older. It's very strange. Now, I'm not sure when this thing was actually filmed. It could have been filmed a couple years prior. I don't know. But that really wouldn't make much of a difference. It's 2009 still. But all in all, man, I think it's a decent debut film for this guy. Like I said, I don't know what else he went on to do. But I don't know. Hopefully he did something a little bit more original. Now, with that said, not a horrible watch. I enjoyed my time with it. 6.5 out of 10. It is what it is. You know, I mean, if you're a fan of those type of movies, you might like this one. It doesn't have the comedic elements of like a Murder Party or even Vampire Party, I think is the more comedic and stuff like that. It's more on the tone of like a Hostel or a Saw kind of thing. There's really not a lot of comedy involved in this and stuff like that. So But yeah, not a bad film from Unearthed Films. You know, sometimes they're hit and miss with their modern stuff, but yeah, it is what it is. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it here for day 30. Tomorrow is Halloween. Yeah. All right, so I'll be back tomorrow with day 31's review. So stay tuned for that. And of course, as usual,